So let's go back a little bit. I get a lot of young architects coming in, very upset because they can't draw. They have master degrees, they've been practicing architects for a good many years, and it's very frustrating to realize how clumsy their drawing is. It's embarrassing. This is a young architect who came up from someplace in southern New Jersey every week, and he's done a perfectly lovely job of finding, plotting, measuring, and rendering the two-dimensional figures in this bottle. So we come in with, initially, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a ratio of 1 to 4. The width of this at this point is 1/3, okay? And we have a vertical here, and 1, 2, 3. Now, this is a mistake. If the straight line comes outside the circle, then the circle has no business there. The circle has to break through that line if it's going to have a presence in the contour of the bottle. Can you understand that? So this should have come in lower. So it would break here, and we'd have a horizontal line there to accommodate it. There was one, he erased it. Now, I'm sure he discussed this at length with his shrink, because it must have given him a lot of pause. But this is what I want. Now, the other error in this is all these lines are the same weight. And what I want you to understand is that throughout this course, we're going to be talking about hierarchies. You're going to do a design with a dominant vertical, but not all verticals are equal. You're going to have the dominant vertical, the vertical that overwhelms all else in your design, and you're going to have many other verticals. But the dominant is going to be darker, more aggressive, more important. It'll be the standing figure. It'll be the tree. It'll be the post. It'll be something vertical that's going to really create the major area divisions in your composition. You'll have horizontals. One of them will be more important than all the others, but it cannot vie with the importance of your principal vertical if that's the basis of your whole design. I want the two-dimensional figures to be darker than the construction lines and all the divisions. So you might use an H pencil for the circles and the triangles, a 2 or 3H for the construction lines, and you will allow the contour of your bottle to be created by where the two-dimensional figures hit the outside. I don't want you holding your pencil with all 4 hands digging a valley into the paper. I want all of these things to be the darkened elements of the two-dimensional figures. All right? And I want you to measure now each and every one of your bottles. What this student did was to work out all of the relationships of a Perrier bottle, and I think I have one back here. And in any event, then taking a piece of tracing paper on top of it, came in, and there were 3 triangles where he put this 1. So that's an error. There were 3 triangles there. It was more graceful. It was a good-looking bottle, and that 1 triangle makes it clumsy. Do you see it? It's heavy-handed, it's gauche, there's no continuity, there's not a lovely reverse curve. It's lacking because the student just didn't see. This is the old Amstel light bottle, and I had this little raised shoulder on it, and it was so very graceful. I would like you to get an Amstel light beer bottle. I'd like you to get a wine bottle like the one you see here. All right? And I'd like you to get this little bottle, which is a Heineken Split. And I would like you to buy Rust-Oleum matte or flat white paint. Don't get gloss, get flat white paint. Read the directions in a well-ventilated room. Spray your 3 bottles with light coats building up. These are going to be your pet bottles. They're going to follow you through most of this course, and you're going to become intimate with these bottles. let me tell you, all right? But this is an excellent example of having worked out all the relationships, all the triangles. You can see them all converging up here, and the outline is beautifully inscribed, and the bottom change is there, and the circle affects the outside and causes a curvature. That's what I want, all right? And then I'm showing you how you have to deal with the tops of these bottles. The Amstel Light and the Heineken Split have that same kind of top that will receive a crimped machine-attached cap. The wine bottle will have a cork shoved into it, and it'll be wrapped in an aluminum foil, I guess, wrap so that it doesn't breathe. And this is the wine bottle top, and notice you need triangles, and you want to see where they come, because that hits here and comes over, and then comes up here and hits the other side. In every instance, you're seeing the symmetry, the relatedness of all of these triangles. They're not random. They've been thought through. Somebody was here before you, and if I can help you to a point where you can sit down with a drawing by some grand master whom you've always admired, and you can open up the drawing as if it were a banquet or the gate into a beautiful exotic garden, and you could identify the golden section rectangles that they used, the gamut, the limited number of directions they used, the arabesques and enclosures, the coincidences, the ratio proportions, the rhythms. And you got so involved with this drawing that there would come a moment, because it happens, when you feel that that artist, dead though he or she may be 400 or 500 years, is looking over your shoulder and shaking their head up and down and saying, that's it. That's what I did. This is the logic behind this drawing. We are going to have to lay out the three bottles in a field. And around the field, we need a border. Now, we want to determine what size we will draw the largest bottle so that it will fit pleasingly on a sheet of 18 by 24 inch paper, good white paper. I want the bottles to be closer to each other than they are to the edge of the field. I'm going to repeat this. Don't worry about it. I'm going to repeat it. I don't need much room at the top, but I need a good deal of room at the bottom. And when you do the border, I want it to be equal on the sides and the top and a little bit wider at the bottom. That projects everything very, very nicely. If your bottles are too far apart from each other, they drift, and this bottle in the middle will be all by itself. I want you to see these as a group, and I want you to see them separated from the border by the extent of field here that will be larger than the distance between them. So that's one example. This is what your final homework's going to look like. The bottles are closer to each other, so they form a group. There's so much room around the top here, we don't have to worry about getting too close. We have a good distance here, and then we do have a border, but it's not in evidence here, but there is a border outside, all right? Take my word for it. So we're going to call this the notional space, and this the cumulative notional space, because it embraces all three. The way I said you could place a still life on a page, if you measured all of the extremities of it, and it measured 1 by 1.5, you put it in your paper a little above center, and immediately it's pleasing. It isn't designed, but at least it's placed on the page, and now you can do a measured drawing. First thing I'm going to request that you do is you get yourself 18 by 24 newsprint, because it's dirt cheap. You come in, and here's your paper. And you decide, I need a border. I'm going to have a square up here and a square here, and I need more at the bottom than that. I need a baseline. I'm going to have to fit my bottles in here. Okay? So chances are you see, what I want is a poem. I want a wine bottle with this kind of a shape, not this. I want the Amstel Light, and I want the Heineken Split. And what that gives me, you see, is a beautiful diagonal relationship, like on my fingers. See them? See what nature does? That's what I want. Then, on the bottom, they're going to go from large to middle to small. Okay? Large, middle, small. We want that kind of order and that sequence in them. They all have circles and they have triangles and they have rectangles. Good. They have a commonality. They have a relationship to one another that's similar to the digits in your hand. I think they're related. Now, what I discovered was there's not enough space between them. And the danger there is, if I have this bottle here and I have this bottle there, this negative space is going to become more powerful than the bottle. I can't afford that. I don't want the negative to overwhelm the positive. So I'm going to have to make this smaller. And the moment I do that, everything becomes smaller, and I have a larger space here, but I have a greater space there. Does that make sense? So then, if you wish, because what you can do now is you can say this is a 1 by 3.5 bottle, so you get this set up 1, 2, 3.5. You know what this size is. Now you want to compare this one to that and the smaller one to that, because this is not bonsai. I don't want this tiny, tiny little tree with these great big leaves on it. I want there to be a relationship between all of these. I want this to hit this bottle here and this to hit this bottle here, and I want the width of this to go into that the appropriate number of times. This is a reasonably complicated assignment. Then I want you to do 3 pages each for each of your bottles in gesture drawing. So you'll have all the make ready for this, which will be a page where you measured the bottles and you found out what the ratios were, and you saw how wide one bottle was against the other. Then you had the layout, and you can cut out pieces that have the proportions of your bottles, and on a piece of blank paper with a bit of tape, you can move them around until you've got the right relationship and spacing. You know, you can have a piece of Scotch tape here and there, and you can move these all over the place. Once you don't start doing a measured drawing until you know how big it is and where it's going to fit. I was in the Air Force, I was in Alaska. There was this huge hangar. It took 2 days for the doors to open. These great motors moved these little tiny slats, and it was so that they could put 3 B-36 aircraft in. These were aircraft that grew up with atomic bombs. They could stay in the air for 60 years. 3 crews, they could be refueled in the air. And when they brought them up to Fairbanks, Alaska to put them into the hangar, they discovered there was a problem. They couldn't do what the architects did. The architects took the roof of the model off and they put the planes in. I bet it was $250 million. And there was one B-36 and all these little tiny aircraft around the fleet. It was an absurd abortion, all right? No, we start at the end and work back. We want to know what size those are going to be. When you know what will fit, then you measure, then you do your analytical drawing. Your gesture drawings, you're going to take 3 sheets of paper, and you're going to come in here with a whole series of gesture drawings of each bottle. You're going to do it times 3. So you're going to have 9 pages of gesture drawings for the whole ensemble, and 3 of them, 6 up of each of the bottles. Now, if you want to do 5 times that many, you might learn to draw more quickly. Gesture drawing becomes very important. It means you can jot down ideas for anything. You can put furniture on a ground plane, you can project it in perspective. You know, if you're doing set design, it becomes very, very important, and you can have your you can have a template for perspective of a stage, and you can project everything up from it on tracing paper. And you can move things around so easily. It's a boom. So, what are you going to do? I'd like you to start reading the Harold Speed, The Practice and Science of Drawing. It's a very fine essay, and because I studied in England, it certainly reveals the English approach to classical drawing pretty effectively. You don't have to start your reading in the Hambidge yet. You save that until the 7th lecture, unless you love mathematics. Then you're going to do gesture drawings, and finally, after you've laid out roughly, and you know how large each bottle is in relationship to the other, and how large it should be, so you've got the cumulative notional space, the individual notional spaces, the field, the border, everything is dead on. Then you start your measurement, and you can measure the bottles with dividers. You can use rulers. You can sight them. I don't care what you do as long as I don't see you. All I care about is that by hook or by crook, you're starting to get a feeling for ratio, proportion, interval, two-dimensional shape. And if you're making progress with that, and you're producing some pretty respectable drawings, you're starting to demonstrate that you left the class understanding what was expected from you, of you, and you were able to reasonably fulfill it. But remember, all I want is an intelligent mess. Give it your best shot, and when you put them up here, I will be rude. I will be honest. And that is going to condition you to fierce criticism if you're going to be confronted as professional artists with critics, or at university in a good school where people are really trying to teach you something and they're fierce in their criticism. Mediocre schools pat you on the head and they don't give you any instruction, and they cheat you because they're expensive. And they're not getting any cheaper, and with the economy crashing, schools have stopped giving away much in the way of financial aid and scholarships. It's terrible. Are there any questions?
The gesture drawings for the 3 of them. It's one for 3 gesture drawings for each bottle, or all 3 bottles together? And
No, you're going to treat one bottle at a time, and on that one sheet of gesture drawings, you're going to do 6 of those 1 bottles times 3 sheets.
Okay.
Then you go to the next one. So you can really repeat the schematic program, the proportions, the figures, and place them. Remember, I've given you a schematic for a circle. Look at it carefully and copy it for the circles you're going to put in your bottles. Actually, if I'm not looking, you can use a compass. But you want to know how to do this anyway, because when we get to the 3rd dimension, and we're going to put circles on this kind of a plane, are you with me? We're going to have to know how to do all of this. So this hits here, and it hits here, and we do that. And it hits here, and it hits here, and we do that. Do you see what's going on? So that diagram that I've given you will teach you how to do it. So get used to this. Get used to this.
Do you care if the gesture drawings are on an 18 by 24? Can you does that one matter?
Why would you want to do it on smaller paper? They get
Oh,
crowded.
I meant like bigger paper. Like,
Bigger paper?
well, the stuff that we bought, is that 18 by 24?
Yes.
Okay, then never mind.
Okay, I'll never mind. Any other questions? Good. I'll see you here next week. Drive carefully. May your gods go with you. Good night.